The news hit like a punch to the chest, the kind that knocks the air out before you even understand why you are hurting. Nick Mangold, the anchor who once held the line like a storm wall, is gone at 41, taken by complications from kidney disease. The team made it official on October 26th, a day after he died on October 25th. And for a long moment, time felt strange, stretched, heavy, like a stadium gone silent. I think what hurts most is how clear his voice still sounds in the mind. Steady, unflinching, honest. Because just 12 days earlier, he had told the world he needed help. He had spoken plainly about chronic kidney disease and asked for a type O donor. Not with drama, not with pity, just the same directness he used to communicate protections and shifts and audibles for a decade. It was a public request that felt private, the kind of brave transparency that forces people to stop scrolling and realize there is a human being asking for a literal lifeline. Maybe that is why it moved so many people. He took an invisible struggle and placed it in the middle of the field where all could see it. You could feel a community trying to rally, people sharing the plea, some praying, some checking their blood type, some calling family to ask if they had ever registered as donors. In an era where confessions often become content, his appeal felt unvarnished, real. He was not angling for sympathy, he was inviting action, which is quietly the most Nick Mangold thing imaginable. He had known the shape of this fight for years. Back in 2006, doctors diagnosed a genetic defect that would slowly wear his kidneys down. He played through it, managed it, tried to stay ahead of it. Then he retired and kept living with it, like a man carrying a weight you cannot see. People sometimes misread that kind of long struggle. They think it must be a straight line, more bad days than good, steady decline. In reality, it is jagged. Some mornings you feel normal, some afternoons you don't recognize your own body. He was candid about the progression, how the numbers moved, how the options narrowed, how the transplant became not a dream, but a requirement. I'm not entirely sure, but I think his openness also let a lot of other patients finally say out loud what they had been whispering into pillows. Illness isolates, transparency reconnects. To understand the magnitude of the loss, you have to remember who he was on the field. He played 171 games, the beating heart of those rugged Jets offensive lines that treated space like a promise to be kept. 7 Pro Bowls, 2 All-Pro selections, and more snap decisions than most quarterbacks ever have to make. Centers live in paradox, both calm and violent, both quiet and in command. Mangold stood over the ball and read the room, then the box, then the blitz, and then everyone else read him. Protection is a complicated choreography, footwork and leverage and trust, and he made it look simple. That is leadership's final trick, to make hard things feel like the natural order of the day. The franchise knew what he meant, and they said it out loud in 2022 by putting him in the Ring of Honor. That night was a warm light cutting through New Jersey air, a ceremony that told fans what they already knew. Ring of Honor is more than a title. It is a promise that your name will not be lost in the shuffle of new seasons. When his name was unveiled, the ovation lasted longer than the moment required, which is exactly how you measure love. The team had given him a permanent home, and in a strange way, that honor prepares you for days like this, the hardest days, because it gives you a place to go with your grief. Rex Ryan struggled to keep the words clean of tears when he spoke about him on air. That happened because the memories themselves carry too much weight. Rex remembered the loyalty, the stubborn pride, the leadership that showed up most when the body barked back. A coach knows the quiet battles. He sees who plays the angle that will not turn, who keeps a promise to a teammate. He makes the tough check at the line when the noise is silent. Ryan's tribute did not feel like a broadcast segment. It felt like a friend standing in the doorway, telling the truth, thinking it would be enough. Former teammates followed, one after another, building a mosaic of a man who mentored without announcing that he's mentoring. Mark Sanchez shared the grief and remembered the protection, both physical and emotional. A young quarterback leans on a center more than he admits. The center explains the language of chaos. He slows the heartbeat. He takes responsibility for the risk so the kid can keep his head. Those stories poured in. A locker room is a village disguised as a workplace, and Mangold was a village elder while still in his 20s. He taught technique in whispers, accountability in example, and humor in well-timed jabs that took the tension out of a room just when it might have cracked. Woody Johnson, the Jets owner, called him the heartbeat of the offensive line for a decade. And that is not just a line for the press. Heartbeat is the correct word. The left guard and right guard hear it. The tackles align to it. The quarterback finds rhythm with it. The running back trusts that heartbeat to open a crease at the precise moment his foot hits the second step. Football is violent geometry, and the center draws the first circle. When that heartbeat belongs to someone like Mangold, an offense inherits a personality. Tough, smart, unafraid of ugly yards, willing to fight for 4 quarters without asking for applause. What I keep coming back to is how his public appeal for a donor transformed the news into a call to action. People shared organ donation links, they told their families their wishes, they discussed blood types over dinner. I know the internet can turn anything into noise, but this was different. This was people trying to learn the rules so they could participate. Organ donation is an abstract good until a real face, a real father, a real teammate teaches you how to make your choice count. He offered the clearest instructions possible, then trusted strangers to carry them forward. Even in the worst outcome, that example stands. If you have ever considered registering, today is a day to stop considering and start doing. The team closed their statement with condolences for Jenny, his wife, and their 4 children, named one by one. That detail, speaking their names, brings the story back down to earth. Public grief can feel ceremonial. Private grief is laundry and schedules and shoes by the door that will not move for a while. A football family will rally. Meals will appear, rides will be offered, stories will be told in kitchens and over text threads. The shock will soften to sorrow, and the sorrow, someday, will be threaded through laughter. I wish that day could come sooner for them, but grief sets its own clock, stubborn and slow. There is a lesson here that leadership is not loud. Not really. It is the quiet loyalty when no camera is around, the steady hand in the middle of chaos, the choice to tell the truth about your body because someone else might find courage in your example. It is showing up for the person next to you on 2nd and 8 in November when it is cold and nobody wants another collision. Highlights are for the real, but character is for the room, and the room always knows. People will talk about the accolades, and they should, because they are earned. They will talk about the Ring of Honor, and they should, because it is permanent. They will talk about the 7 Pro Bowls and the 2 All-Pro nods and the 171 games and the playoff pushes that made whole cities believe again. They will also talk about the text that arrived at midnight after a rough week, and the advice he gave to a rookie, and the joke he cracked to ease a tense meeting, and the way he stood up for a teammate without asking permission. Those things never make a stat sheet. They build a legacy anyway. I almost wrote that he was only a center. Then I caught myself. He was a center completely. That is different. A center shapes culture. He decides that protection is not optional, that details are not boring, that identity is not a slogan, but a habit. Mangold taught that with his stance, his film study, his hands, his words, and yes, his honesty about suffering. When the illness demanded a public moment, he framed it not as a spectacle, but as a map. Here's what I need. Here's how you can help. Here's the number to call, the type to check, the courage to borrow. If this story moves you, let it move your feet. Talk to your family about organ donation. Register if you are ready. Ask your doctor the questions you've been postponing. Check on a friend who is navigating a diagnosis in silence. Mangold's final play was an invitation, and we get to decide if we accept it. Before we close, if stories like this matter to you, if you want first-hand updates on others that carry the same heart and clarity, hit subscribe and turn on your bell. It helps this community grow, and it means you won't miss the next story that asks something real of you. We end where we begin, with 8. Former Jet Center nickname died at 41 from kidney disease complications after publicly seeking transplant. And the wave of tributes that followed revealed the truth bigger than football. Transparency can mobilize a community. Leadership is the daily practice of loyalty. Organ donation becomes powerful when tied to a human face and simple instructions. A center's influence outlives the snaps. In the end, you measure a legacy not only by the banners, but by the character that stays in the room after the lights are off. May his family be held, may his teammates remember well, and may the rest of us decide that compassion is not a feeling, it is a plan.